Howdy, everyone. Welcome. Glad to be here getting to discuss a vital topic. I'm here with my friend Terry. My name's Doug Cothe. I'm the founder and owner and principal consultant for People Smart Group, as well as the founder of the Organizational Health Collective. And over to you, Terry.
And I'm Dr. Terry Wager. And I am an organizational psychologist, and I am a founding partner of Generator Consulting, and I work with my partner Christine.
Fantastic.
Partners in business and life.
Yeah. And also a member of the advisory council of the Organizational Health Collective.
Absolutely.
Which is a group of consultants and internal practitioners as well who get together and work together to grow into being the most expert we can be in the organizational health arena, which is helping companies have a healthy culture, healthy design from top to bottom, healthy teams, and really maximizing that to maximize productivity and maximize results. And so the Organizational Health Collective is a place for us to grow as consultants and practitioners. And then each of us as practitioners is out there working with businesses and organizations to help them grow, to be healthy, to build great cultures that really help with sustaining employees, sustaining growth, sustaining results. So
it's all about we work so much of our lives, and it's a drag to have part of that be stressful and unfulfilling and something you don't want to do. And so the whole idea of the organizational health is to make work fun again. To really make your work life as fulfilling as you want the rest of your life to be. And so I think that too often people use work as thinking of it as I have to do this work thing in order to have a good life. And it's really, no, what do you really like to do? And how do you really want to show up? And how do you want to experience work while you're doing it? Because we're at work often, more often than we are in our private lives.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And so much of that comes around to the idea does what the core of culture is what its core purpose, as Jim Collins would put it, or why or why do we exist? What are we doing here? On top of that, it's our values. It's what are we, who are we? How do we behave? How do we lean into the world? And when those align between employee and company, you've got a very productive workforce. You've got a sustainer that people actually want to stay at a company, not just because, hey, you pay me enough money, but because I actually believe in the purpose. I believe in who we are and why we're existing. And so that's a key piece of that so many companies miss out on. They think that they just need to pay enough, right?
Absolutely. They just need to pay enough and they'll be good. I live in the world of recovery as well. And one of the things that a tenet of recovery is, especially for the program I'm a part of, attraction rather than promotion. And I was thinking about that today when we were talking about our topic, because one of the biggest problems that businesses have, whether it's a small business with an entrepreneur trying to get more business, is they're promoting themselves constantly. And everybody talks about, you got to promote your business, you got to promote yourself, you got to market, you got to do this. But the program that I'm involved in really strongly suggests attraction rather than promotion, because we're really trying to get the attention of people that don't want to look at their problem. So if we go and try to promote this, they're going to be, oh no, get away from me.
Right.
And so we have to be attractive rather than promoting that this other way of life has some value.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I find is too many times businesses are on the promotion rather than attraction phase, and they don't garner the attractive quality that they're looking for.
Yep. That's good. And so we've alluded a little bit to our topic, but diving into that, for one, our purpose here of this this time and of this broadcast is for us to really be able to put out there these ideas of, hey, what does it look like to be healthy? What does it look like to build the productivity and the results that you really want? And how do we do that within organizations? And so our topic today, there's so many leaders out there. Hey, you want desperately to have a leadership team of top performers, an entire organization of top performers. And no doubt, that's a wonderful, wonderful desire and goal.
Why would you want poor performers?
Right. Well, yeah. But why would they? And the show intro, not in there, but in the notes, I put in the question of, when you think about dating and looking for someone to marry, often people are like, oh, I want the ideal spouse, and they can describe the ideal spouse, but the question still comes about, like, why would they marry you? What is it about you that actually would draw them? The ideal spouse shows up. Would they choose you? And the same is true in the employment world, right? Why would a top performer choose your company over all the other options that are out there? And the question is, if you don't build the culture of your company, if you don't build the who we are, why we exist, to mirror and be there for your people to see and be there for people to be attracted to, you're in trouble. You can't just go out there and, well, I'm just going to outpay everyone else. Well, that'll last for a little while till they're miserable in your company, and then they're going to quit and go elsewhere and find someone else that'll pay them similar or at least enough that they're happy, and they'll go work somewhere where it matches and aligns with who they are.
Right. Promotion isn't a plan, whether you're promoting your business and then get them in there or promoting them inside your business to keep them. Both are extreme financial drain, and sooner or later, when you can't promote anymore, they're out.
Yep.
But now that's where I think about this idea of attraction. So I think the biggest problem is people don't know how to be attractive. And I know a guy who has a big company that's a marketing company that talks about the attractive character and talking about how you have to be the attractive character. And then he has, even courses on making sure that you sound like you're the attractive character. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to make yourself sound like you're the attractive character so you can fool people into thinking you're attractive, but you're still promoting through attraction.
Right.
What?
Yeah. And
So
how
now
long does it take them to figure out that you just faked it?
instead of being attractive.
Right. How do all of a sudden they figure out once they've been hired, oh wait, this is a bunch of phony baloney recruiting stuff, and I'm out of here. And now you're back at square one. You're having to go through the whole recruiting process. You're gonna have to go through the whole hiring process, the whole onboarding process again, and you're losing money the whole way.
Losing money the whole way.
Instead of just figuring out who are we, and then how do we attract our people to be a part of our organization. And so yes, it's important that how do we interview, how do we recruit people who fit our organization. But before you can even do that, or top performers, but before you can even do that, you've got to define who are we, and who are the top performers who would be the ideal people that would be here, so that we can actually attract them. And so the starting point of recruiting top performers is building your company well.
Absolutely. And it's one of the things that we've talked about it before. A lot of times companies think that if we're building our company well, what we're doing is we're putting systems and processes in place so that everything is automated and easy to track and all of that. But really, you can't build a company without people.
Yep.
And you can't build a company, your people build a company. And so the number one task, I think, of anybody after they get out of is this a viable business, and they're actually in a viable business and they're making money and they're a going concern, so to speak, is really focusing on their talent recruitment, and not just for talent, but for the cultural fit. Because talent without culture is, worth something for about 6 months.
Right.
But
it's going to bring
after that,
destruction
you
to the
start
rest of your organization.
Yeah, you start to see the churn. And so you really got to step back and go, okay, how do I build that culture that invites those high performers to want to do it here?
Yep. That's good. And so what are the key aspects as we talk about that, building that culture? Where would you start with that, Terry?
Well, I think that it does go back to the 6 questions of clarity, and why do we exist,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
then the cultural values, and for me, it's the behaviors that we value.
Yep.
Really getting clear on that, and I mean, we sound like broken records when we talk about that, but because this is what works.
Yep.
Um, but then I really do think that when you're starting to look, okay, this is what we stand for. Now, how do we measure it and start getting into more of what Lencioni talked about with hungry, humble, smart, and being really
Yeah.
focused on, okay, how are people driven? How are people with their ability to see themselves and their flaws and what they need to do to improve their ability to learn and grow,
Yep.
and then their emotional intelligence, and how good are they there.
Yep.
And I think for me, what I've found is no matter how much you know about your company, and no matter how much you can, you know, talk about what behaviors are looking for, if you don't find a way to measure and to help people understand it in the hiring process, that we're really going to be looking at the humility and the drive and the ability for you to interact with other people, and you're not looking at that,
Yep.
our value doesn't matter very much,
Mm.
because our cultural values and our behaviors that we're going to be looking at, like, this is how we want to behave at work. This is how
Hmm.
we want everybody to behave together. And this is not like everybody getting along, but this is how we're going to deal with conflict. This is how we're going to deal with meetings. This is how we're going to deal with showing up. We want that. And you got to be able to admit when you're having problems. You're going to be celebrate people when they're doing well, and maybe you're not.
Yep.
And you're going to be able to you got to be able to look at your drive and where you need to excel,
Hmm.
and at the same time, you need to be able to talk to the other people about where they're at and what you see as problematic, as
Yep.
well as asking for feedback for yourself. And so that hungry,
Hmm.
humble, smart is super important, and it's
Yep.
part of that process.
Mm. And one observation about that I think is really helpful is so many times people think of values and their um, activities or things that someone plays out. So you're a high performer because, oh, you do a great job reflecting on stuff and then changing it, or you do a good job because of X, Y, or Z. But the humble, hungry, smart lays out that categories that are really more character. And if your values aren't character, all the activities that flow out of that character are not going to be benefits you get for very long. People can
Right.
do that for a little while. They can sustain those things for a little while, but that's not going to be, it needs to be part of who they are in their character and flow out of that. And so again, another key piece of those core values are it's how we behave flowing out of then really who are we then? Like, what is my character? If I'm humble, I lean into the world in a certain way. If I'm hungry, I lean into the world and into my work in a way that, hey, I really want to accomplish things. I want to get things done. I want to work hard. If I'm smart, people smart, as we talk about it, not just intelligent, but we're intelligent in the realm of people. Well, then I'm going to interact with other people in a way that cares about how am I impacting people? How do people impact me? Why do I say the things I say? What is my relationship with these people? How do I build that? We're going to interact in those activity ways that are really, really helpful, but it's going to come out of who we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do believe that everybody's capable of change, and everybody's capable of being coached. And so the hungry, humble, smart is really when somebody is coming into the sphere of the business. If I'm the business, if I'm the CEO, or I'm the hiring person in the business, if I let them know, hey, this is how we do this, we're going to be looking at how coachable you are, really, and how
Yep.
willing to admit where you make mistakes, and how willing you are to step into the scary stuff, and step in and help other people, and willing to go the extra mile, and you're willing to call people out on, or bring to attention where they're messing up, at the same time as being able to give some good feedback instead of just pointing the finger saying you're terrible. If you
Yeah.
can do those three things, or if you can be coached around them, then you're a shoe-in, as long as then when we go back to the values, you can do the things that we're talking about in the behaviors we're valuing.
Yep.
And so it's really, when we look at those two things, they're two filters together. Of course, why we exist is another filter, but those are two filters together that are so strong in
Mm.
making sure that you bring the right people in, because high performers are great, but if they're not coachable, they're a nightmare.
Oh yeah.
And if they're great and they're coachable, but they don't have the same values, you're going to be working against each other. So it's the values as one filter and the hungry, humble, smart as a second filter. And if they go through that, you're going to lose a lot of candidates when you're looking at hiring. But the ones that go through that, they're going to be very strong and very committed to your business. And then you got to keep paying attention to it.
Yep. And building it, right? And that brings us to another piece, is so many people focus on, I want high performers, and their focus is, how do I hire in top performers? How do I hire in high performers? But the reality is, if you have an organization that has good culture, you're going to be building high performers. They're going to have the qualities of a high performer, and you're going to be growing them into the high performance. And so that's another piece, is, are we developing people? Are we helping people move into being those high performers, those top performers? And honestly, are we becoming a factory of that, where, hey, you know what, we may lose some people, but those people are leaving because they're moving up into another role because we've developed them so well that they're doing incredible at what they are and who they are. And guess what? We don't currently have a role for them in that. So they're moving up and out into somewhere else, but we've got other people coming behind them to fill in right behind them.
Yeah, and speaking of that, that's one of the things that I really appreciate about my partner Christine is she is a people developer, and she worked for Starbucks for 18 years. And whenever she was in, and she was in stores for a number of years, being more of a turnaround expert and getting the store back functioning. But she always was moving people and encouraging them into a management position, whether it's a key holder or what they call a shift supervisor, or further into assistant manager positions. And then when she was managing the stores, she had always focused from the beginning, when she got somebody new in, whether they were hired somewhere else and came to her store, or they were hired in by her, the first thing she thought is, what is the direction and what are the steps of them for succession? How can I get them from where they are walking in the door to managing a store? And so it was Christine's attitude and outlook towards employee development from the very beginning. Instead of looking at them as they're just baristas, no, they are future managers. They're starting at barista.
Yep.
Right. And when we're thinking about that's coffee. What if it's an auto shop? Okay. They're future managers or future owners, even, that are starting out as a mechanic, or starting out as a service writer, or starting out as a floor sweeper.
Yep.
So that's where they're starting, but we don't know where their end point is. And so we're going to develop a management training and a employee development program from the very beginning to the place where they can succeed, the person that owns it or the person that's running it. Because if you're always thinking about that, you're always having everybody uplifted, and everyone is included in the ability to move forward. The only people that get excluded are the people that take themselves out.
Yep. That's good. I like that. And that's a great picture of that reality of, if we're developing people, the other piece that comes with that is employee retention.
Yes.
Because people want to be developed. They want to grow. They want to learn. They want to know there's a track forward. Especially, again, if we're going back to the character quality of, we want people who are hungry.
Yes.
If you want people who are just content, hey, that's fine. It's fine for people to be content, but if that's not the attribute you're looking for in your company, then and you want hungry people, well, then guess what? You're going to have to put together something that helps their hunger where they can grow and where
You
they
gotta
can
feed
continue
them
to
a
move
little
up.
bit.
Yeah,
You gotta
yeah,
feed the hungry.
yep.
Um,
Yeah, top performers are not going to hang around for very long if there's not a room for growth. You're going to be a stepping stone on their career journey, not a place that they stay for the long haul. And so employee retention it's such a vital piece that, hey, we're actually thinking for you and with you of what's the next step. Where are we going from here? How do we develop you? How do we help you become greater at what you're doing and even move toward what you really want to do? And are we helping you evaluate what really fits you? Because again, that's another piece. Some people come in and, I think the classic for me is the salesperson, right? You end up having these wonderful salespeople who are amazing at sales. And what do? They promote them to manager and they suck as a manager. And it's like,
yeah,
and now they're making less money. And they're going,
yeah,
wait, what? And your company's doing worse because your best salesperson is now a manager. And it's like, no, hire a manager to manage, hire a salesperson to sell. But then I still got to think through, how do I develop that person's sales career and keep them going and keep them having room to move and grow? Because within that sphere, but not having them move into something that's not their skills.
Well,
but if the only moving up is manager, then I'm in trouble.
And speaking of that particular thing, I think that happens a lot, and they don't have the discussion. And I say they, but I mean owners or people in the position of promoting that salesperson. They don't have the discussion around the skills that it takes for the new job, and they don't have the discussion around what they're really going for with promotion versus understanding exactly what that person really likes about their job, and they fill a position. And I talk about hiring for coverage rather than hiring for culture, and I think that people do that as hiring or promoting for reward rather than promoting for placement. And they really need to look at that as well. And some people just don't want to be managers, and they don't want to be over other people. But then to your point is, okay, so what do we do to show or provide that growth structure for that next step with that salesperson who might not be interested or good at managing?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And help them feel the sense of, hey, I'm accomplishing, I'm moving, I'm gaining, those are vital pieces for us as people, right? We want purpose, we want growth. If we're the type of people that are going to be the high performers. Obviously, the person that's static and wants to stay static, well, if you want to hire them for a job in your company, that's up to you. But most of us, if we really are pursuing high performers, want that person that wants to continue to grow, wants to continue to know, hey, what's the next step? What's the next place? Where am I headed? And we've got to give them those, and we've got to dictate those categories, not dictate, but we've got to work with them on those categories better than what currently happens. It's just hey, I moved up the org chart. Well,
Right.
that's not necessarily a good thing.
I got one more step higher. I hate my job. And oh, how many people, I don't have the stat on me, but I know it's a high number of people who get the promotion and then want to leave.
Yep.
Because they promoted into a position that they're either not comfortable with, they haven't been trained in, it wasn't what they were thinking it was, but it had a different dollar amount, so it felt like a better idea.
Yeah.
And people are really looking at the money instead of what the meaning is.
Yep.
And so you gotta understand the meaning before the money.
Yep.
And really
understand. I mean, think about a leadership team, right? For an organization, an executive team. Happens all the time, right? You've got, let's say, the chief technology officer, the chief marketing officer, chief financial officer. What's the next step? Oh, CEO. I'm going to go be a CEO somewhere. Well, is your skill actually at leading the team? Is your skill actually at leading the whole organization? Or is your skill in technology or finance or marketing? Why would you want to jump into a role that's not who you are? And yet, what's been conditioned within us is the natural next thing is I've got to move up to the next rung on the ladder, which is the org chart, is the ladder, unfortunately, rather than, hey, I got to be the greatest chief marketing officer on the planet. Or, hey, I want to be the greatest chief financial officer on the planet or the greatest chief technology officer on the planet. Hey, let's go
Yeah.
for that.
I was actually just talking to a loan officer, or a loan VP at a pretty prominent bank, and he's like, I've kind of topped out in my area, so I'm thinking, do I want to do a new? Do I want to diversify? Do I want to go and be a broker for myself and help people that way? But I'm making a $250,000 a year in this position, and I can tell that I've got that angst. I want to do something else, but there's really not much next step for me.
Yeah.
And so, what do I do if there's no next step? What do I do?
Right. Yeah.
Do I change careers? Do I find fulfillment in something else? How do I go about doing this? And so we're now having conversations around what next would look like when you're at the top.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And how many, like you led off with the, do I go be a broker and start my own business essentially, right? So now I'm going to
Yeah.
go be an entrepreneur. Maybe I'm not made to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
And people don't realize, hey, if I go be an entrepreneur, I got to wear all the hats, not just the key
Yes.
hat that I'm incredible at, but now I got to wear all the hats.
Yeah, and some of them don't
You
fit.
really want to sign up for that?
Some of those hats are too tight. Some of those are way too loose, um, and uncomfortable. Every once in a while, there's a hat that covers your eyes.
Yeah.
You can't see. And so it's like we got to look at that as employers, and we as consultants have to look at helping employers kind of understand where they're at with their hiring system and what their succession planning is, for their high performers. And at the same time, we also have to look at where you put the brakes on,
Yeah.
promising a next step that might not be good for them, and really understanding that.
Yep. Yep. And that's generally wisdom, not science, right? And so that's where you have to be wise about people. You have to be able to understand your people and find ways to know who are they and where do they fit and is this the next step or is there something else? And a lot of that's also the people skills to work with them in co-directing that, right? And saying, hey,
Yeah.
what does this look like for you? And not just starting like, oh, well, now you've moved up in my company, so now I'm going to start that. But actually, do we just start with that from the get-go? Is that actually part of the recruiting pitch, right? Like, hey, we're here to help you move in the direction that actually fits you best. And so we think these are the values of our company. This is our why. If this purpose and these values and this character fits you, you're going to be thrilled here. But
Absolutely.
guess what? If it doesn't fit you, you're going to be miserable because we're going to be really, really focused on these things. And so you're going to be utterly miserable and want to leave here in no time if you take this job, if this does not fit you. But if it does, you're going to be thrilled. And we're going to be thrilled with you. And we're going to move forward together to make something great.
Yeah, absolutely. And that humble, hungry, smart. We've actually started working with one of our companies as a test pilot kind of thing, pilot project to start doing quarterly reviews with the Hungry, Humble, Smart,
Mm,
and really measuring where people are at as a coaching tool
yeah.
and a culling tool, so to speak. And so
Yep.
coaching those people that need to grow in it, and then people who are just really not showing up in Hungry, Humble, and Smart the way they need to.
Yep.
Well, it's time to help them find another place to work. And so the loving up and loving out, and it makes it really, really simple when we can measure where people are at with their level of humility or coachability, where they're at with their um, drive, and where they're at with their people skills. Because if they're not cutting the mustard, but they're working for you, you have, you may have somebody who can hit numbers, but they're not making connections the way they need to, and they're not making strides the way they need to in their own personal development, or and if they're not doing that, then they're probably not driven the way they want to be, or you want
Mhm.
them to be.
Right.
And so the
Yeah.
kindest thing you can do is let them go.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And so we've hit, hey, you've got to have the internal development of people, but you also have to have clarity, right? on your what are our values and what is our purpose and what are those things. So you hit that. So these are the things we need to build if we want a team of top performers, an organization of top performers. But we also then need to be very, very clear on those things. And then, as you're saying, those need to be a part of everything, a part of the recruiting process, a part of how we live out in our company in a day-to-day basis, and so that people are evaluated even on those things. And so they're either sticking around because they're doing an amazing job of living out our why, living out our who are we, how do we behave, right? Or we're exposing them to the market and saying, hey, this is a great opportunity for you to go find a company that fits you better because we're not it. And so then we have this internal development where we're helping develop high performers, where we're taking people with the raw material of the character qualities, the values, the drive for the purpose. And we're saying, hey, you don't have all the skills yet to be at the top end here. So we're not just pulling you in to put you in a high position, but we're going to build you up to get you there. And we're going to develop you. And even having that with everyone you bring in, like, how are we developing you to be the best you? Absolutely. And those are all pieces to say, hey, we want to be both an attractive place for high performers and a place that develops high performers. And then the piece we've touched on a little bit is the hiring high performers. And what does it look like for us to set up a hiring program that says, hey, this is who we'd hire? We touched on a little bit in the sense of your values have to be there, right? They've got to be central. I started to hit on a little bit of one thing we talk about a lot, which is you have to scare them with sincerity of, hey, guess what? This is what it's like in our company. We're really serious about this stuff. And if you're not, you're going to be miserable. And we want to work to scare off the wrong people in the interviews. We want to do that. You don't want to be fearful of, hey, this is a dating relationship. I got to put my best foot forward and see if they'll stick around long enough to hang out with me. No, I want to scare the crap out of you. I want to run you off if you do not fit my company because you're going to do destruction internally if I hire you and you don't fit. And you're going to cost me more money because I'm going to be hiring again in 3 months.
Absolutely. I think too many people are in the pick me world and the let's get them quick world on the two different sides respectively. But the pick me at all costs. Wait, no, I don't want you to pick me because I don't fit in your culture. And we got to cover this position quickly. Do you really? Is that an anxiety that's pushing you to actually get somebody in there and you take anybody that just doesn't really work?
Right.
We have to be. And I think that goes to humility too. Is like I have to have the humility to realize I can't fill this right away. I need to look. And on the other side, I have to have if I'm the one going and getting the job, I have to have the humility to realize that I'm in a position that isn't going to fit that way because I don't think the same way or I don't feel the same way or I need more training or something like that, and I just don't fit there. Well, quit trying to fit in if you don't. Be honest about it and find someplace you do fit well.
And from both the hiring perspective and the person looking for the job perspective, just what you just described fits one of those other Lencioniisms we love is sometimes you got to slow down to go fast.
Absolutely.
And honestly, if you would slow down in the hiring process, take it slow, do all you need to do to really discern, does this person really fit us? Then you're not going to be hiring for that position for the next years. But if you want to go fast and you want to just hire the person that, just really hit it off with you and you guys did well in an interview talking about their resume only, well, then guess what? You're probably going to be hiring for that job again in 3 months and then another 3 months and another 3 months. And you can take years trying to hire the right person for that job. So if you will slow down now so you can actually just take off like a rocket, once that right person is in the position, you're going to be so much better off than you are having people in there for 3 months at a shot or 6 months at a shot. And so it's worth slowing down to do the hiring process right. And that another Lencioniism, right? Hire slow, fire fast. If you want to make sure and confirm they're a good fit. And then if you've confirmed internally they're not a good fit, you want to go expose them to the market and get them out because the damage they can do once they're inside and they don't fit is huge.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest problems that I've seen with business is they hire fast and fire slow.
Magnify the damage on both ends.
it's the codependent Cree is, you bring everybody in as fast as you can and keep them. Um,
Yeah.
and don't let
Yep.
anybody go. Like that's going to be terrible. Uh, and really what we want to do is we really want to think about, in more of a meta sense, think about how we're growing the company. And, I have a company in Rhode Island that I've been working with for quite a while. And when I first started working with them, we went over that and they're like, yep, perfect. And they gave it lip service and didn't realize what it really meant. And they hired a bunch of people that didn't fit, but they kind of fit, but they didn't actually fit at all, as they really kind of evaluated later.
Mhm.
And every one of those people left,
Wow.
either because they were let go or because they didn't like what was going on, when they were corrected on things. And so they one at a time. But we really put the cultural values and the hungry, humble, smart in place as their hiring rubric, so to speak. And they've got three amazing people working there now
Yeah.
that, they're really excited about, and they're contributing, and they're willing to grow. They're actually evaluating each other on Hungry, Humble, Smart, and really looking at, okay, um, what does each one of us need to work on?
Yeah.
Doing it as a team, and it's
Mhm.
it's it's an amazing difference when you see that happening, because everybody in that business is having an extremely good time while
Mhm.
they're getting some really good work done. And so
Amazing. Yep.
it's interesting.
Great
It'd be cool.
example.
It'd be cool if we could actually have a Hungry, Humble, Smart for clients too.
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
that's
Ideal
not as
clients, right?
not as easy.
No.
Um,
No.
but so, what advice do we have? How do we get
Well,
started doing this?
that is a great question. And I think we've kind of touched the tip of the iceberg, right? And there's so much really that getting in contact with one of us or one of our other associates within the Organization Health Collective would really help people, because we can flesh this out in each of those spheres that we talked about so much more, right? And so I would honestly say the starting point for you might be to contact us. If you want a book to read, The Advantage would be a great starting place, I think, by Patrick Lencioni, as well as Jim Collins' is Good to Great. I mean, those two books really detail what does it mean to be a great organization that has great people, and how do we build it, right? From
Yeah,
two different perspectives. One's from the research perspective, and one's from the, hey, this is the picture of how you build it from the top down and build that culture, build that organization. And so I think those would be two places to start as well. But I think definitely, and there's several others. We could go with the whole book list, I'm sure.
yeah. I mean,
Uh,
I'd go with Ideal Team Players is
yep, absolutely.
a very good book to read. Um, but if you really wanted to get started on thinking about what you're looking for driven people, or
Yeah,
if they're coachable, really identify what you find coachable, and then start asking people questions on those,
yep,
and really pay attention to that, and then pay attention to what their level of drivenness, and ask them questions around what their drive is.
yeah,
Um, and when you can do that, you can start really getting more operationally understanding where they at with the hungry humble. And I mean, pay attention to how they interact with you, and you can get some of the idea of, do they have people smarts.
yeah,
um, and
yeah,
and so it's really observing them in your interviewing and in your interactions with them that you can really identify some of that. um,
yep,
but if you want to jumpstart,
yeah.
reach out, we will help
Reach,
you.
yeah. Give us a call. And I would say there's probably some leaders out there as well who are the leaders who this is all new to. Like they just got smacked in the face with, wait a second, I have to actually work to recruit and be attractive to top performers. And if that's you, I mean, that starting place, the question we asked right at the outset in the opening of the video of why would a top performer be attracted to your company, is something you need to be a little introspective about and say, what is it about our company? And do we really, and starting really with, we got to build out those values. We got to build out that why. We've got to get real clear on who we are, why we exist, so that we actually have an answer to why would someone want to work here, and who would want to work here,
Yeah,
because so many people don't have a clue. And so if that's you and that might be your starting place. Who would want to work here? Why would they want to work here? Why would we want them to work here? Those things, and really fleshing that out first before you get into the whole hiring process, is vital, because
Absolutely.
you're going to hire the wrong people if you don't know those answers. And so self-reflection is a good place to start as well.
Absolutely.
So much more we could say, folks, but that is our time for today. So we would love to have you come join us again next week, and reach out to us over all the different avenues you've got out there. LinkedIn, we've got a YouTube pages, we've got all that, Facebook. So reach out to us. We would love to chat more about this, just have interaction with us. And also, if you desire, hey, someone come in and help me out, we can either do it, or we know others who would be fantastic consultants for you. And so
Absolutely.
reach out to us. We'd love to talk. In the meantime, have a great week.